6, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Essex here. We get a lot of questions from our customers revolving around emission systems on tractors. People are often pretty concerned. There's a lot of computers on these things. There's a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions. We're going to take a couple minutes today and show you what the regen process is actually like on a tractor, kick it off for you and show you exactly what the machine does and maybe put some of your concerns at ease. You'll notice that I've got a laptop sitting up here on the fender. That's because I'm going to have to kick off this regen manually. Now what a regen is, if you've not heard that term before, is that these engines are equipped with what's called a diesel particulate filter, or a DPF. That particle part is what we're going to go through here today. So that canister is doing a lot of different things to scrub that exhaust stream, but where guys start to have questions is in that particle portion of it. So the DPF has a screen on the inside that's going to capture the soot coming out of the engine. The amount of time that it takes that screen to plug up is going to vary depending on how clean the exhaust is. So if you're running your tractor with the RPMs higher, you're going to regen a lot less often than if you're putt-putting around at low RPMs. So generally, anywhere between about 25 to 50 hours, your tractor is going to go through this process. It's going to go through what's called a burn cycle that's going to burn off the inside of that DPF to get rid of the soot. So this is our rental fleet tractor here, and it now has 70 hours on the meter. It's probably gone through one DPF burn by 70 hours. So I'm going to use the laptop here to start it and make it go through its burn cycle. So I'm going to use Kubota's Digimaster software. This is our diagnostic software that we have. And the first thing it's going to tell me here is to put the transmission into neutral, apply the parking brake, start the engine and let it warm up, and then leave the engine in an idle state. Now what we're doing is called a parked regen, where we're sitting here still so we can film. Most of the time when this process happens, you're going to be out working the tractor. Some lights are going to turn on the dash, and you're not going to need to do anything at all. The tractor is simply on its own without your input going to go through a regen while you're working. Now when that happens, you won't notice any sort of loss of power. The tone of the engine will change, and maybe you'll notice a little bit of an odor, but other than that, you continue working through it. It's not something that's a big interruption to your process. This parked regen is a little bit different because we're sitting here, so I'm going to go follow the directions on the laptop. I can find my cursor in this bright sun and hit go and confirm to start. So if you look here at the dash, you'll see I've got a middle arrow right here. It's with an up arrow on it. That's telling me my engine RPMs are too low in order to regen. So the top light there is what you're usually going to see when the DPF is ready to regen. And then you're going to raise your engine RPMs up until it stops blinking. And now we're good. Now it's not going to start quite yet. That's going to continue to blink until things warm up enough that it's ready to go. So we walked over here away from the tractor a little bit to get away from the noise so I could talk a little bit. So a couple things you want to keep in mind as the operator of a tractor like this. Generally, nothing to worry about. Go out, drive your machine. If you see that light on the dash with a little poof of air and the arrow pointing up, that means it needs more revs to regen, in which case raise your revs up to do what the tractor wants you to. It will do its thing, your life goes on and you continue working. If you need to stop for some reason, you can. What I usually would encourage you to do is to let the tractor finish its process. Generally should take about 20 minutes or so. Park the machine, let it finish its regen before you shut it off. If you do need to shut it off, that's okay. It's just going to want to regen again as soon as you start the thing back up again. What I'm doing now is called a parked regen. You have a button on your dash in order to kick that off if you need to. Set the parking brake, put the transmission range selector into neutral, raise the engine RPMs, and press the parked regen button, and it will manually do it. If this causes anything negative, it's the noise from it, because the thing does need to be running at high RPMs in order to have that exhaust temperature up. And it does make a little bit of an odor. You can kind of smell the burning that's happening. That burning is accomplished mainly through exhaust gas temperature, although when it happens, a little bit of diesel fuel is injected into the exhaust stream in order to generate that heat and burn inside the can. When these things first came to market, guys were really concerned about fuel usage during regen. it's a nearly indistinguishable amount of fuel in your overall operation of your tractor, especially given that this is only happening every 25 to 50 hours or so. The canister that's inside of your tractor is made to do this for around 3,000 hours. Every one of these cans can go through about 200 to 300 burn cycles before the inner element needs to be cleaned. You do not need to replace the entire canister. These are serviceable units. The on-road truck industry deals with this a lot. You can pop that thing open and take the element that's in the inside of it and go and have it cleaned. Dealerships have exchange programs, or we can send them out and have them refurbished and sent back to us, or a lot of truck stops have the equipment that's required in order to clean them out. That's typically done at a cost of about $300 to $500 or so. So over the 3,000 hour lifespan that costs, most tractors might maybe have this done once in their lifetime. If you haven't noticed, I get a little perturbed by tractor marketing sometimes, and one thing that's irritated me a little bit is when companies use an emissions system as a selling feature for their tractor. We sell a lot of different equipment that uses both the DPF, diesel particulate filter system, and the other type that's called diesel oxidation catalyst. So there's two different main styles of emission systems, and different companies use them under different brandings, but all of them is fundamentally one of those two systems. A diesel oxidation catalyst, or a DOC, is 90% the same as what a DPF, diesel particulate filter, is. The difference is the DOC does not have the particulate filter screen inside of it. Now, the way that engine meets its emission requirements, its PM output for particulate matter, is by running the exhaust stream hot all of the time. So while a DPF heats up in order to do a burn, a DOC is effectively burning continuously. They also will use what's called EGR, exhaust gas recirculation, in order to circulate that gas back into the engine again and re-burning it and getting it cleaned up further that way. So there are those two different systems. I can't say that we see dramatically more problems with one or the other. It's just a difference in the way that a manufacturer has chosen to engineer their tractor, and really shouldn't be a purchasing factor for you. So this is done now. That regen took 4 minutes and 45 seconds in order to finish. Now, it probably had somewhere 20 to 30 hours on the engine here, so it wouldn't take as long as a complete regen would. The other thing that you can notice from my laptop here, as soon as that slowed down, you saw the exhaust gas temperature drop. When we run this back up again, you notice how that chart peaked there. The exhaust gas temperature at wide open throttle isn't really any different than it is during regen. There was initially some concerns when these things came to market about how hot the gas temperature would be during regen and it setting fire to things. That is part of why your tractors have an inhibit switch on them. You can prevent regen from happening and raising that exhaust gas temperature. But when we watch here in our laptop, you'll notice that our output voltage there on our exhaust gas temp sat right about the same whether we were at regen or just wide open throttle, so it's not really radically different. The only other fun stuff that you'll see there on my laptop screen, you'll see DPF Regeneration control level. We were at 2, we're now at 0. So 0 tells us that there's absolutely nothing that needs to be done. We've got a good, clean DPF at this point. That number ratchets forward as things need to happen with your DPF. So 1 would be, say, contaminating some soot inside of it. 2, I believe, is where we were at before, that does a parked regen. You could ratchet that up the whole way to 5, at which point we do have to plug a laptop into this thing in order to do it. Now, the way that you get there, and the thing that you don't want to do with this tractor, is to continually ignore the lights that are blinking on the dash. So most of the time when we see problems with these systems, it's when the operator isn't attuned to what the tractor is doing and isn't knowledgeable about the DPF system that's on the engine. So when those lights are blinking and, say, telling you to increase your engine RPMs, if you pay no attention to that and continue operating without doing anything, eventually the tractor will derate itself, it'll want to parked regen, and if you still ignore that, At that point, it's going to try to prevent itself from being damaged and pretty much go to a shutdown state where we need to come out with a laptop in order to recover it and make sure that the thing burns and is cleaned out properly. So that's a little bit about the laptop tool that we use to do these things. Most of our service technicians do carry these around, and they do all kinds of things for us on the tractor. It's used in a lot of other ways than just working on a DPF. It's how we check out all kinds of different tractor systems. So that's a little bit about a tractor emission system using a diesel particulate filter. If you're new to equipment like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We come out with all kinds of videos helping you understand how to maintain and use your tractor better. If you got any parts needs for your machines or service issues we can help with, or you're looking to pick up a piece of equipment, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messick's.com.